29th. Happy Leap Day to everyone. 2016. Silent roll call. Let it be noted that Councilman Lesser is out sick. At the moment, Councilman Lipsky has not arrived. Everyone else from council is present. A reminder to council to speak into the mics because this is being streamed so that people can hear you. We continue with the council review, discussion, and suggest amendments to language in the proposed draft general plan. We're going to go back to page 22. Vice Mayor Lamar has some
You weren't here, you don't want it.
Some suggestions to this section, and that is due to all the work that he is doing with the state land department. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, first of all, I apologize for not being here, but you was sick, Susan. So
Oh, I bet you were. I
you
mean,
wouldn't
it's all
want to be
around
here.
so far.
I want to go just to the land use element on page 22. The last paragraph, if we go down to where it says, starts at all of the documents. I have
How far down that paragraph?
the last paragraph, fourth
Yeah, fourth line.
line, all of the documents. I have just scratched out that whole sentence because, one, maybe it's me, but I didn't quite let me just read it. All of the documents generally describe the necessary provisions by the town and future landowners for developing or conserving land that continues to be held by the state land. That at best, if it means what I think it means, it's superfluous. The document speaks for itself. We have the document. And it is an agreement. And so the change comes in the next sentence. And I would change that, if we have a consensus, to the agreement enabled the town to amend the general plan and zoning ordinance map to allow for future development and conservation, period. The town will continue to explore means to assure permanent conservation of those lands that have been temporarily rezoned open space pursuant to the agreement, period. And then the rest would be deleted.
I like that.
And I want to go into a whole big finesse thing. It's so that we don't have unintended consequences if we go with a conservation district in our negotiations. And I think we all get it.
I do have a question. Steve, why did you want that temporarily? So
That's,
I hope it's not temporary, but you had a reason.
that's probably the main thing.
Pardon?
That's probably the main purpose for the change, is that it's a 20-year agreement.
Okay.
By its terms, it is a temporary rezoning. Now, it's been a debated issue about whether that zoning would revert after that 20 years, or whether that would whether the whole agreement would revert, or whether the zoning would remain with the authority of the town council.
If we put in the word temporary, does that mean that we recognize that it is indeed not permanent? Because I prefer that we do.
No. What it means is that, let's say hypothetically, during negotiations, and now that we're now engaged in a partnership, that the best way to accomplish this with little or no tax dollars spent, or at least a very small number of tax dollars spent, is to form a conservation district rather than going through the whole buy-sell process of the lease process. And that is done through, in our area, the LA district of the Army Corps of Engineers. I don't want to get into the whole bailiwick of who. There's been conservation credits that can be used by the state land department in different places arising out of that. What we get is not just 99 years, but what we get is 4,000 acres of open space permanently designated by the Army Corps of Engineers and the state as a conservation district. And we can manage it, we can build trails to it, get trails on it, but it remains open space. So it can't be by,
I think I appreciate that.
a town council down the road. Now, one of the issues then, but though is, so we make sure we don't muddle it up with, is that we have to be conserving new space.
Absolutely.
So this is the first attempt at a permanent conservation. We never did get the sale, we never did the agreement. And then the state land, we're not on shaky ground. The state land department's taken the position now for some of the years that we went along, that this was nothing more than a temporary zoning agreement and, move on down the road. One of the best options, if not the best option that we have right now, is this conservation district, and we're really seriously exploring that. And collective, not just town, but land department, hiring outside, land departments hiring their own outside counsel just for this. That's one of the issues we want to avoid. We want to make it clear that there's no duplication of already designated open space in our open space policy. That's all.
The 2 points I'm trying to make, perhaps you've addressed these. One is, I wouldn't want the word temporary in there that would weaken our zoning. But if indeed legally it is temporary zoning, then that's what we should know.
Well, it's not temporary zoning, it's temporary, it's by terms of the agreement, the zoning agreement is a 20-year.
The agreement is temporary. That I
It's
agree.
temporary. So we're not losing anything. It could be changed, but it would have to be changed by the town council or not. That's an argument for down the road if everything fell apart.
Right.
And we haven't weakened our position legally that either is or isn't. So I'm not describing it as temporary standalone, this is temporary zoning. It's a temporary agreement. We have 20 years for the whole
I
agreement.
agree that it's an agreement. that
It's a finesse. It's trying to not make another issue that would interfere with our plan. Because we're very optimistic, and we're gonna have a meeting with the lawyers, and we're very optimistic at this point.
That's good. Anything we can do to further the process.
That's the only one I had that was, other stuff you probably already caught, it's just, words here, words there. I do have a question though. Where did you guys end up on the, page 37, the 20 acres, 10 acres, 0 acres on the 10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's one each way, we've had 0, we've had 20, so.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, I'm sorry.
Council good? No, this is important.
Wait, there was public comment on that last week, which never got, it was
Is
shut
this a
down.
public meeting at this point?
They may speak. Be brief.
I think Eileen had, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I didn't know we could talk about.
I generally wait to the end of everything, but if you wanna,
Right, well, I'm concerned because there were a number of people that spoke. Eileen wanted to speak. I knew she was speaking to that resolution 2014-04, and she didn't get a chance because the recess was called. So I thought we were gonna pick up there, and now we're kind of past that.
Well, I did get this, you allowed me to finish after the recess, Mayor, and my point was that our 2014-4 had just been illegally eliminated, and we were in a very secure place in this town, because rezoning is sacred to us, all of us here. And the major amendment that we have right now says everything is a major amendment to the general plan, anything is, every single thing, and we had expressed the interest for it to stay as it was now.
okay, I think council understood that, but what council is comfortable with is the 10 acre.
Right, I understood that, yeah, but I was just telling you reenacting what we had talked about.
I understood that from the last meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we needed to get back, what were the parameters, Marie? 52 to 56, okay. We got stuck on something there.
Well, I still would have 3 pages at the top that Councilman McGuire sent us.
Okay. Okay, Councilman, you want to, don't forget to speak in the microphone, please.
On the pages 52 through 56, as you will see on the paper that all the council has, the mayor has copies of these. My objectives were to correct some errors, avoid duplication, omit uncertain categories, and add information that's referred to but not specifically stated. And all of the council members should have had the opportunity to look through what I've done there. I don't believe that I made any substantial changes in policy. I think it's just a matter of clarification.
What?
It's 3 pages, so there's copies.
It's only 3 pages?
There's
Oh,
copies.
here. Gotcha.
It was, yeah. And it was sent out to all the people on council prior to the last meeting. Some may not have had time to look over those pages and my suggestions.
Okay, council?
Mayor, I didn't have any problem with that. This is what I wanted us to skip over the last time, because there was too much stuff to look at in the meeting, and didn't have time to look at, had to look at what Councilman McGuire has done is just redefine some stuff. What was it, convoluted rodeo planes? From the, is Bahada and,
Bahada is a well-recognized scientific term, and some of the terms that were in here are terms that I didn't recognize, or terms that don't really describe what it clearly wants to describe.
and since you did write geology textbooks, I will actually defer to your
That's
expertise in those
never
items.
happened before, but I'll take every.
I know, well, you don't look forward to it happening again.
Okay, council, good?
Fine.
Yeah. Citizens, good? Okay, then we go to page, Marie, 72, I believe. Okay, we're going page by page.
It's like 72 doesn't exist.
Not anymore. We took care of all those things in the last 10 years. Everybody thought we didn't do anything.
Neither does 73.
Okay,
Wow. Okay.
I want to say, talking with some of the people on the planning commission, I give them a great deal of credit for taking out information that's not needed. I think we've got a significantly tighter document, a document that makes more sense, a document that's updated to our current issues. And I commend them for that.
okay, we are on to page 77.
Yes. Go on.
Okay, Thomas?
77.
You don't have changes there.
The third paragraph on 77 Sierra Vista of an unincorporated Maricopa County. This is a part that is under the county's plans in our Blue Creek, and I think it's called area of influence.
Planning influence area.
Planning influence area, okay. And my intention here is that we consider this through our 10-year plan as an area that we want to look at in terms of possible annexation. At some point, it may become.
Where is this?
Okay. I'm
You're
sorry.
saying paragraph 3?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Okay, but you're not, I'm not explaining it very well. If you look on the maps, Luke, can you help me as to which map you need to look at? Okay, if you look on page 101,
We are on 77.
I know, but the map. on
The
page
map was
101.
on one.
Yeah. Okay, on page 101, the area at the top right where it says Maricopa County, that is an area that we commonly call Sierra Vista. There was an attempt to incorporate that to become a part of Cape Creek a number of years ago. The citizens in that part of the county elected not to make that a part of Cape Creek. And I feel that it is something that we should consider.
Okay, what, north of Spur Cross Ranch?
Okay, it is the essentially 4 top right squares on that map where it says Maricopa County. It's to the right of Spur Cross Range Conservation.
Page 101?
Page 101, yes.
Luke, can you
You
tell
got a
us?
guess, Wish?
Right here.
I know who lives out there.
Who lives out there?
Yeah, we do.
224.
What is this area?
It's county.
It
No,
counts.
I know it's a county, but what
If
is?
you go out Fleming Springs Road, you get to a certain point where you are outside of the town of Cape Creek,
Right.
or into unincorporated Maricopa County. Their only access is through Cape Creek. And the issue that I'm suggesting is that we take a serious look at annexation of that particular area. If they don't want to become a part of Cape Creek, that's up to them. But I think that we should show interest in that area.
Okay, is this the area at the base of Continental Mountain?
Yes.
No.
I'm not interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear you.
It didn't have value years ago, it doesn't have value.
It's already been tried and they don't want it. Fine.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, Thomas, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, that was 77.
Are we all on 77?
Yeah.
Okay,
And that was a brand new issue. You're not looking at something that's presently there.
Yeah,
So it's there now, I think.
are you getting phone calls or?
I'm expecting
Now.
now, but since it's a dead issue.
Well, the residents out there can always petition whatever
They can.
council and, ooh, okay. 78. I just had a question, the second paragraph that begins preservation of the town's rural character, etc. through acceptable commercial development.
I have appropriate there, not acceptable.
Okay, I have acceptable here. Which is, because my question about acceptable is something's acceptable to whom?
Yeah,
Who's making that decision?
right, so I did change that out.
You changed it to
Appropriate.
appropriate.
The appropriate, whatever,
There's still a decision involved.
Sure, it's
but I
gonna
think
be a
that's better
decision.
one.
Yeah.
and I have a little bit of a wee problem with the last half of the last paragraph on 77. It's all red.
Maintain that.
It starts out expansive growth south of, is that 77?
Oh,
78.
I'm on
77.
78, okay, we're back to 77. Okay, the last paragraph,
77.
expansive.
Yes.
You know, it starts out with the town has adopted Carefree Highway Plan, the direct development, blah, 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 blah. I don't know, like it talks about we're only gonna use, for future mixed-use development south of Walmart. That's inconsistent with what reality is right now, let alone in the future. And I don't see, when you start out where the town is adopted, as far as I'm concerned, we can just delete that, the whole rest of that paragraph, because it's superfluous.
That sounds good.
Okay, are you saying end it at end shopping opportunities,
Yes.
period, delete everything else?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's misstating what reality is, actually.
Okay. Okay, staff, are you what we're doing
You following?
Yes.
here? Okay, now on to 78.
Near the bottom of 78, the goal, number 1, I would suggest there, right at the bottom of the page, instead of reinforce, I'd like the word support.
Maintain the historic town core on the local council to support its market and its local business. Maintain the historic town cores. Character. You probably want to, if we're going to change it, it should then maintain the town core's character and to reinforce its marketness? Or not reinforce, to support and to
Well,
support its marketness at local retail?
I am very comfortable with support in both cases.
Okay. No, I'm fine with support, but I was adding the word "and" after character. Maintain the historic town core's character and
Yes.
to support its marketness at local retail establishment.
I'm comfortable with that.
As an objective. Okay,
We're still on 78.
still on 78.
The only thing I would do is delete number 2. The superfluous. Number 3 is to continue to identify other opportunities for commercial growth.
Are we just on 78?
Yeah,
78.
78, number 2, it's just a reference, acknowledged by reference in the appendix. If you go to the appendix, it doesn't acknowledge it by reference, and I don't see any need to acknowledge it by reference.
Are we on 78 or 79?
We're on
Oh,
79.
79, forgive me, 79, that's my fault.
So Mayor, is that consensus to replace reinforce with support in both those cases?
Yes.
Yeah, and to add the word "and" between character and "to."
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Vice Mayor, where are we now?
I'm sorry, not 78, 79.
79.
Number 2.
Number 2 says, acknowledge the Carefree Highway Plan in the Appendix A as a map. I don't think that's necessary, but
I agree.
I don't care.
Okay. Page 80, cost of development element. Susan?
Well, I have it scratched out as far as, by reference as listed in Appendix A is deleted anyway.
Page 80? 79.
79.
Oh, we're back to
We were just
79.
on 79. So I don't, but, there were 3 or 4 of these at different times, so if you have the latest one, the other things differently, but it's fine.
Okay, page 80, the cost of development element. Everybody good with 80?
Yep.
Tom, you got one there.
Something
On page 80. you've
Yeah,
got
I
one.
lost it. Oh, and some of you have a copy of the notes that I had made, and those notes, there are a number of issues in that notes that we discussed, and we decided not to adopt them. And there are some that I've gone through subsequently and chosen not to bring those up, probably because they're bad ideas.
Okay.
Or they're inconsistent with other changes that we agreed upon.
Okay, we're on 81.
Pretty clean to me. We have to thank the planning commission too, because they really did cut a lot of the heavy lifting on getting the superfluous stuff out of the way. A lot of it, so thank you.
We're on page 82. The, one thing I wondered when I was reading about the town encouraging people to get on the water system and sort because of our zoning, our spread out zoning, that it makes us so cost prohibitive for the town to extend X number of miles of nothing just to get to it. What I'm trying to say is I wonder if that's a desirable, as long as they are getting water through whatever means, and we are taking whatever efforts we need to make sure some of the things you submitted about studies that need to be done, urgency studies, emergency studies, that the water committee could help us with. I just wonder how realistic that is to have it as a policy or as an objective. Because the further you get out, it just becomes, economically not feasible to run lines for.
I agree with that, and the essence of the suggestions I made is that we simply prepare ourselves for that. One of the considerations is that some of this cost is probably prohibitive. But another consideration is that we will have people who have run into difficulties probably because, in large measure, because of our aquifer. We do not have the deep aquifer, and well levels in many cases are going down, and we need to take a look at that. But I'm not saying we should provide infrastructure for the whole community. I'm simply saying, as we move forward, we anticipate that there will be difficulties, and that's something that indeed we should anticipate, and where appropriate.
Where feasible.
Where feasible, or where appropriate.
Mhm.
For instance, where I live, it would cost a small fortune to get water lines
Yeah.
across the creek,
That's what I'm saying.
up the hill. It's all bedrock. You'd be dynamiting everything, because I did it to get my electrical lines around to my house. I mean, it was dynamiting every 3 foot. It cost a fortune. Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
there's some places that are not conducive to just hooking up lines,
Right.
but others that are really conducive to it.
And it's all.
And I think we shouldn't,
part of it.
generally, I agree with you, that we shouldn't have gaps where everything makes sense to have everybody on the water system. That should be encouraged.
Yes, oh, yeah, no, I'm not, yeah. But as a town-wide policy, I'm saying that, I don't think that's realistic. At the same time, I mean, the worst case.
And if you would, what do you understand me to be saying as the townwide policy? That we will build those? No, that's not my suggestion.
Yeah.
My suggestion is that we plan ahead.
Mayor, members of council, the commission, this was a new objective, after a lot of discussion amongst the commission about, there are pockets and neighborhoods along Cave Creek Road that are in close proximity to the sewer lines that have been run down Carefree Highway and the new regional wastewater treatment plant. So that was kind of in concert with that development and seeing septic systems starting to fail in the older neighborhoods. And just to kind of leave the door open to examine those things, that Chairman Smith is here to speak to that if you wanted to consider that further.
And I do, that separate water from wastewater, because they're two different things. Ernie?
Yeah, we could just add where practical to the end of that sentence, and I think we've got it covered as far as wastewater.
Yeah, the worst case scenario for us is the 800 wells, which are in our jurisdiction.
Yeah, and some of
If
those.
they were to go into catastrophic failure, how would we get water to those people? And it's not by running lines.
No,
Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, you're thinking of the commission?
Is this actually on?
No.
No, I didn't think it would be. Oh, I'm supposed to go like that?
You could use Susan's microphone. If you need.
No,
That's on.
it is working. The commission spent some time on this too, and tried to consider the implications of a number of things. One implication, of course, is the finances of the town. Obviously, if there's a front end cost to doing an awful lot of things, like attaching various communities to the existing sewer system. But it's one of those kinds of things that if the town is going to continue to progress in the future, there's going to have to be some tough decisions made. One of them is, Are we going to enhance the productivity and financial viability of the wastewater system? If we just sit on our hands and say, well, things will develop as they develop. Now, each development that, and use a different term, I'm always different, but each development that comes along is being asked to utilize the water system and tap into the sewer system. The further uptown that we do that, the better it is for odors and things like that. But it's going to be very hard to get the wastewater system to be financially viable unless we have massive development in town. And I don't see massive development coming along. If I can mention one thing, and that is water. We have, if we use the average water that we use on an average day, the town could build out without an issue because there'd be plenty of water. Unfortunately, we don't have every day being an average day. We have massive peaks and very deep valleys, and the average comes in as something where we can handle it. If we build out a lot, we are going to hit situations where the town cannot cope water-wise with a peak day. There were 2 instances last year where we almost tapped out the water system and had to put out an edict to reduce use of water. We use a lot of water. We use more water than probably any other town this size in Arizona. And it's a number of factors.
The number that was that you passed along to us from Dr. Allen is that we use more than 1.5 times per capita in this community than they do in other communities. I think 1.66.
And part of that is the fact that we had a very large number of leaky lines.
Part of it.
And some of that's been addressed by the work that's been done at the base of Black Mountain. That's reduced some of the leaks. The water that we're losing that was going into the ponds at Rancho Millano, that's been reduced. So probably an honest number, instead of being 308, which is what Maricopa County came up with, would be something between 250 and 270. Simply because of the water that we've saved.
Right. Do you recall the figure that was presented as the target figure for generally Maricopa County?
Well, they would like to keep it, I think it's what, 145?
Yes.
It's low, substantially lower than what,
And I think we've got 2 issues here. One is our ability to deliver on peak use days, and that's a matter of the infrastructure. The other issue is the per capita use of water as we build out.
And in any event, saying, encourage folks to get on the water system and or the sewer system where practical, it serves that end in your discussion.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But, it's one of those kinds of things. It's synergistic. You have to, the only way that you can handle all of the water issues is if you get more water, which is very hard to do, tap the wells, which is going to have an impact on the other people that are already on wells.
That's the town's wells.
Yeah, and, or conserve. And one of the things that this town has been relatively bad at is conservation.
Yeah, but isn't part of it that we have a lot of, my neighbor has 5 or 6 horses, 2 goats, 2 burros, 2 the list goes on, and I'm sure that the animals consume more fluid.
This is not your normal community. We have more swimming pools, we have, which use up an enormous amount of water. We have half of the town that places where there are horses. And we just use an awful lot of water and we irrigate. So, it's one of those kinds of situations where we have to do the best with what we have, but we can probably do better.
And there were specific recommendations with respect to encouraging conservation.
That's already underway. The Water Advisory Committee has done some stuff, and it's in here.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
that's one of the things we put in here, just to see if we can move things along a little.
And that's well thought.
Mr. Smith, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to point out that in an earlier portion, last meeting, we suggested that new development should provide an outside source of water for that new development. That was added to the language. It would be useful in the language that's here about new development to also have that repeated in the,
Do you have a particular line you're referring
yes,
to?
point to policy action, acknowledge that new development is subject to an analysis process that examines water requirements and water usage and leads to the provision of an outside source, or make the strong recommendation that requires the provision of an outside source of water. Because that's consistent with what was said earlier.
And it's my understanding that if a new development comes in, they have to bring in their water.
No, that they have to.
Well, that
But
was,
and that's just for a major development. Is that correct?
that's what was recommended in our last planning session. It didn't actually say that in the draft plan. What was said was there had to be provisions, there had to be adequate water. And that might mean that that water would be allocated from the residual that the town currently has to new developments until there was no more residual. But as the chairman of the planning group said, Mr. Smith said that on peak use days, there isn't anything to allocate. So
I think that allocation is in fact a yearly allocation. So, you don't have to worry about how much you're using each day. It's the total per year usage that's most significant as far as allocation is concerned. Now, water supply, that's a slightly different issue.
I was referring to the amount that the Central Arizona project has granted to Cave Creek. In addition, we requested something like 1,100 acre feet, and they granted us less than that.
Right.
And that's what I was referring to. We have some, but it would be useful if we required new development to provide, a major new development to provide an outside source, and that's what we said before.
Doesn't new development have to get the 100-year water supply?
Yeah.
So,
That is correct.
But can't they get that from our current sources? Couldn't we give them an allocation of the excess water that the Central Arizona project has already given to the town? That's not an outside source, that's an internal source. Is
They
that
have to
correct?
provide water to development in town. You can't not do that. You can't make them go to the Scottsdale Water Department and get their water.
In the district, we have 700 acre feet in excess. They could request that. It's outside district or split district. They have to bring a 100-year supply. There's also a few other carve-outs for 100-year supply.
When Cahaba Springs came in, they brought in a water allocation that would be needed for their homes. And in fact, they brought in a slightly larger allocation that they in fact did not need. So they, A, brought in their own water, and B, gave back to the town a portion of the water they put in.
It was that parallel that I was hoping to strike, that Cahaba Springs did that, so why not other large developments do the same thing? That's all. Thank you.
council? Ernie?
What would be the verbiage for that? Do we want to add that in here? Small point,
We could make a general verbiage that we want to encourage new development to bring in their own water and to.
Yeah, if it's a real development, they have to.
They have to anyway.
Right.
Would we want to find some way to encourage other developers to do what Cahaba Springs has done, that if they're bringing in more water than they need, to allocate that to the town for our other citizens. I don't know whether that's.
I think that should be something staff would do anyway.
Yeah, but I agree that it's a good strategy while you're negotiating along the line of a given project. I agree, and given the sensitivity that's expressed throughout the general plan and with the water committee that's continually expressing concern about conservation, I'm sure that will be a bargaining point as we go on, but I don't know how you write it in the general plan
No.
to make it general enough to have any meaning. So, it's not that I disagree with the principle, it's just that I don't see how we can draft language that's really gonna help or change anything here in the general plan.
And as Ernie would point out, you know, these people are, that's their decision, that's not the government's decision. Am I speaking wrong?
You did good. One in a row.
Okay, 83,
Now, in 83, I'm proposing a new goal.
a new goal.
A new goal, so it's not something that's there. The goal would be to provide for future safety and security of properties and people. The objective would be planned for continued vital services. And the policy action statement would be, if we anticipate that rural metro will become undesirable or unavailable, establish alternate plans for fire coverage. In other words, is it clear what I'm suggesting?
It's clear enough for me to understand. I don't know that that belongs to the general council.
Well, I would think they would have more, if you want to do more generic terms, that to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of folks when it comes to having fire service
That would do it.
available, period,
Yeah.
just, that would be a goal.
Okay. Did you get that
Don't want
version?
to do rural metro.
It's in the notes,
It's
right?
in your, on your notes.
It's the same.
It's under page 82 though, the new goal. So we changed that to, it should say page 83.
83, it should be.
83, right. So be objective.
It would be.
It's a new goal, so
It's a new goal.
it would be
Oh, goal. Okay,
4.
Goal 4. Thank you.
Provide for the future safety and security of properties and people.
And do we want to say with regard to fire coverage?
I don't think so.
No, I would just leave it open-ended because you've got police and fire and EMTs and who knows what the future looks like.
And you're specifically pointing out rural metro here in Palm.
I wouldn't do that.
That's probably not otherwise. Okay,
For 10 years.
And I agree, we don't have to specify rural metro as long as we're looking to the future and to the need to have our citizens secure in the availability of fire coverage.
You good with 83 then?
I have a comment. Can I comment?
Yes.
Thank you. This is laying groundwork for destruction of desert rural, large parcel zoning. Spur Cross is a dead end.
What page are you on?
I'm referring to Tom McGuire's, Councilman McGuire's comment about putting in health, safety, and welfare. Yes, I agree with that, but that will be grounds to make sure, I mean, think of the land use map. Spur Cross is a long dead end. Schoolhouse is a long dead end. That wording is gonna blast open all sorts of roadway to put in. The people like it the way it is.
Well, I agree with you that I think we just have to have the safety of the people. No, I think we've made it clear through the general plan up to this point that in general we don't want to extend the roads. I think that's elsewhere.
Yes, but that, therein lies, you're creating a conflict by putting that in. And we don't want to have conflict in the general plan.
Yeah, I don't see the conflict.
Well, I do, that's my
Council,
position.
is council okay with the language?
Those don't put the figure rural.
Yeah, just take out,
Yeah,
goal
don't be
one,
specific.
A objective, and leave out the one.
That is the primary purpose of the community, is the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. That is our sole responsibility. So, but I don't see where Tom is trying to put, high-rise condos out in the middle of nowhere.
That's not our sole responsibility.
No, that's not the point.
Nice try.
No, you've just taken it further from your left side of the spectrum.
Cradle to grave, cradle to grave.
So just,
There are no absolutes, artists.
just that we're clear, we're eliminating policy 1. After the objective, so it only goes to objective, plan for continued vital services. End. Is that what we're agreeing to?
I think so.
Just strike
Okay.
that first policy.
So eliminate the policy.
As long as it's clear that we're looking forward to providing the essential services,
Yep.
which could include fire, could include other issues.
Okay.
On page, no, we're not done with page 83.
Oh.
Okay, page 83, goal number 3, fourth policy statement, and I'm suggesting exploring monitor partnerships with nearby towns and other entities.
Explore and monitor.
Right.
And what are you suggesting?
Partnerships with nearby towns and other entities.
I don't particularly care for that.
What's wrong with other entities, which would include nearby towns or towns?
It's implied.
Well, I mean, we could explore actually allowing, other entities to allow signs for, you know, in our right of way for things in their town and our signs in their right of way for things in our town, but, we can't even get that done, so I don't know that I would,
It is implied.
yeah.
Okay, are we good with 83?
Yeah.
To add it or to eliminate it?
We're not adding.
Not
adding.
adding.
Not adding.
Okay, we are into the glossary.
It was a real page turner, this glossary, I'll tell you.
I
There were other parts of this document that were kind of slow reading, but boy, this just, boy, it captivated. This was the best glossary I've ever seen.
Page 84 of the glossary, are we okay?
I have nothing to add.
Does anyone have anything to add to the glossary?
Told you.
Well done.
Okay, we are into the appendices.
This is up page 97.
I'm on 88, appendix A.
Which is simply a list of what's.
Right. Want to say, everybody okay? Does anyone have anything they're not okay with in the appendices? Nope.
I don't.
Now, I will give a question, well, there are notes that I want to make on each of the individual maps. Do we want to go through that now, or shall we go map by map? Might it make more sense to say, okay, what comments do we have on page 97, et cetera? I think the list is fine.
You think the appendices is fine?
I think the list of appendices is fine.
Okay, and you have suggestions on what?
So if we go to 97.
This is up to 97. Okay, a minor detail on page 97. The regional park as well as Black Mountain Preserve probably needs to have.
It needs to be added to the map.
Give me a moment, please. See. Nothing there. Oh, yes. Okay, if you look at Spur Cross Range Conservation Area, those boundaries are shown in red, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but we don't show in red the Black Mountain Preserve or the regional park. So those boundaries should also be in red, I think, consistency.
Correct. As I stated at the last meeting, the planning influence area map had some trouble with the scaling down for 8.5 by 11. So some lines disappeared altogether. Like
So this is a
the whole
recognition.
planning influence area should be crosshatched. It's something that is a work in progress.
Okay.
But yes, you are correct. All the park boundaries will be outlined in red.
Okay, Thomas?
So I'm done with 97. And I'm fine with 98.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
I just had a question. Why was the water resource appendix deleted? It seems like that had a lot of information in it that was quite relevant and detailed to the questions that everyone had. I mean, I can see where you'd want to update it, but it had an awful lot of information in it that wasn't covered in the plan itself.
Mr. Chairman? Let's see, oh, there it is.
And I do have 98.
We excluded that primarily because we had added a number of goals and objectives and such that included a little bit of it to a degree. And then the chairman of the Water Advisory Committee had recommended that be deleted, and that he would develop something that would be shorter and would give relevant information. A lot of what it was on those pages was taken up with incorrect numbers, just assumptions that had very little basis to them. And what he tried to do was to consolidate it in a way where it would be more understandable and not take up so much space.
I agree with the commission on this. One, we have a clear, it's clear throughout the course of this document that conservation is clearly important. We have a separate committee. If in fact the chairman's correct and they took a lot of time to look at this, that a lot of those facts weren't correct and it wasn't succinctly put, then it's got no place in here. If we didn't have any mention at all, maybe, but I don't, so I agree with the commission on that.
And one other thing, we decided that it would be better to have as an appendix rather than part of the standard narrative or general narrative of the general plan, so that if there was a need to modify it or something, we could modify an appendix rather than to go through the whole general plan process.
Okay, Tom, it's page 98.
Yes, on page 98, if you look at your key, there's high-density residential is keyed in orange at the bottom, key on page 98.
Okay.
Where are those areas? I don't see any orange on the map.
City of Phoenix.
Scottsdale.
That's it. Correct.
Carefree.
They're really underneath that historic town core plan layer. To be the MR zones.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, members of council.
So should,
Okay, they're underneath the red.
Correct.
okay, is it readable to have that underneath the red? Or should we simply
Get rid of orange.
delete the orange and somehow change the key?
Red.
You see what I'm
If they're
asking?
all underneath the red, then change it to red.
Red.
Yeah, change it to
Yeah,
red.
just change it to red.
Well, the commission discussed different options for the maps. What we did in the preparation of this, we have two adopted specific area plans. We've got the Carefree Highway, we have the historic town core plan. So both of those are in red. The high density areas are going to be multifamily residential that are
In
currently
those
zoned.
areas. So assumed in those areas.
And that's assumed within the town core,
So there is no place on the map where orange would stand alone.
unless you remove the adopted specific plans.
Well, for now, then why don't we just outline high density residential in red then? Make the code red, because that's where it's all at. We're not gonna pull those out before this general plan gets voted on unless, I don't think we are.
Mayor, members of council, the only potentially problematic thing with doing that and leaving that block for the historic town
Oh, because
court
it looks like it's all that and it's.
is there's some desert rural in there, there's some low-density residential land uses underneath that as well. But those are all addressed in the historic town
How
court.
about putting a red asterisk right next to the footnote that says, is-
High-density residential areas are predominantly located within.
Yes.
Yeah. Makes the map more easy.
Make a footnote of it, with a red asterisk, a red asterisk.
And also, we have red representing specific area plan, but historic town core is shown in red.
That is a specific area plan.
So they're both. Specific area plan includes both the town core and the area.
And the
plan.
Carefree Highway.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're still on page 98. Kata, did you have something?
Yes, a small comment. If you are going to have the high-density residential locations on the land use map, then we need the DR 190. We need the DR designations as well. Thank you.
Council?
They are.
Planning.
Aren't the desert rural on there?
The desert rural land use is on the map.
Now,
Only as one color, not the different designations. 190, 89, 70. For, yeah, those,
You have to go
for
to the
subcategories.
zoning maps for those.
Correct.
And this is not a zoning map.
It's a land use map that the developers use. So you want yours, I want mine.
Let me ask this question I asked it last week. To what extent can the land use map sync in with the zoning map?
Mayor, members of council, the zoning is tied to the land use in the text of the document. The land use map is a general overview of the town and its different land uses. There are many zoning subcategories to each land use. For example, high-density residential is multifamily. Mixed use can consist of commercial buffer, residential R18. Medium density consists of your R35, R18 zones. So there's multiple zoning categories that are going to fall under each land use. And the density ranges and specifications are all in the land use section of the text of the document.
I think you're saying that developers are required to go to the zoning maps rather than to the general plan.
Absolutely.
Are we done with 98? Okay, 99. Thomas?
The dark green boundaries for consistency, for example, should Black Mountain Preserve have a dark boundary? I don't see it there. You see it specifies Black Mountain Preserve, but you'll see there's a dark green boundary on the other areas, and it's not in just Mountain Preserve.
Isn't it green?
It's shown in green, but there's no outline as there is for the Cape Creek Regional Park. Desert Mountain
Can that
Preserve.
be added blue?
Yes, I can.
Outline it, dark green like the other.
Mhm.
Anything else, Thomas, on 99?
Okay, but should this be labeled major open space areas? You know, Mayor, if I recall properly, when we have talked about open space in Cave Creek, we recognize that there are places that are open space that are not under the control of the town, but they are indeed open space. So if we call these major open space areas, then we're not.
You want to add the
saying
word major?
Yeah, just put in the word major.
Okay. Anything else?
Land designated open space. Okay, and this is a question that the mayor lets me really know better. The land labeled, land designated as open space in the agreement with the Arizona State Land Department, Yellow Springs, Rogers Wash, and Apache Wash. Should those be labeled on this map?
No, not yet.
Okay, they're not there. Okay. I'm done.
You're down there, another map.
Okay, page 100. The trails plan. The trails map, I should say.
Okay, my-
Thomas, anything?
Yes, Town of Cave Creek General Plan, I'd like to say existing and proposed trails. These are not all trails that are open to the public. Let's make it very clear that if someone were to take this map and try to follow all the trails on this map, these are not all existing trails. Many of them have not been fully designated.
Okay, Bambi, do we need to identify under the map what is proposed and what is current? Bambi?
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
I apologize. Could you
No,
repeat
No, I don't believe you could fall asleep with these together. What I'm saying, the trails map, we're on page 100, and what the councilman is suggesting is some of these trails are existing trails. We hike them, others are proposed, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, should we make that distinction in the definitions below so that people know which is which? In other words,
It's got proposed on it.
It does have proposed and.
but I think what Thomas
No, I'm
is
saying
saying,
in the.
making a distinction between existing and proposed, or do I misunderstand?
Yes, my suggestion is in the title of the map. Trails, I would suggest putting in existing and proposed.
Oh, in the
trails.
title.
In the title,
Of
I'm
course,
sorry,
okay,
in the
so
title.
we're like thinking about the actual trails, I apologize.
So,
Okay,
No problem there.
101, general plan of circulation.
there is a category here, proposed roads, in the key, over on the right, the black line. Do we have any proposed roads? I don't see any on the map. In other words, there's a key designation here, I don't see that actually shown, used on the map. Luke?
You are correct. There are no such identified proposed streets.
So that could probably just be taken out as a key. Unless you want it there for future use. As the map exists, you've got a category that's
I
not.
don't think we're gonna back on them in.
This is not the map we're talking about. What's up there?
Yeah, I was responding to the question, sorry. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay,
So we adding,
We'll take out proposed.
take out.
So then what do people say that we're gonna do? We don't have it shown. With nothing identified. Never mind.
okay, we good, council?
Yep.
The state trust lands,
What was just said, excuse me?
I'm sorry, what was one?
What was just said about the,
They took where it says down there where the key is, where it says proposed, they took that out because there are no proposed roads.
okay.
That should make you sleep better.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of council, the next two maps were added at the recommendation of the commission as well.
Okay,
This is the state trust land and the soils.
Correct.
okay.
Well, the soils map has a lot of detail on it.
You need one as big as this table to actually do it.
You
correctly.
do, you do. And the other maps that we have in here are more generalized. I'm not sure I understand the usefulness of the map, but if it needs to be there, it needs to be there. And I don't see a
You
problem.
know, I don't see it as harmful being.
No.
Okay, Cave Creek water supply and future demand. And this is
I looked,
some
I looked through this, and I think that there are a lot of very good ideas in there. And I tried to incorporate the suggestions made from the water company within the body of the document and to make them more specific.
Do you have copies?
And that's something that I did when we were back in those areas. So that's something that we actually had covered before.
Before you continue, Mr. Smith, you wanted to say something?
I'm sorry to interrupt, it wasn't about the water, it was about the previous map that we went over. There's a brown area, I think it's brown, that's designated as desert rural.
Page 102.
This is, I think it's on page 102, yes, thank you. I just wondered why the areas that are off of Schoolhouse Road and Fleming Springs and in that area, Spur Cross, aren't some of those desert rural too?
Mayor, members of council, the commission wanted a breakdown of all these state trust land.
I see, so that's state trust land.
Correct. They didn't want any other, anything else really put on there except street names and identifiers, so you kind of get an idea of where it is. But they just wanted an identification of the state land.
I should have seen that with the label, thank you.
Okay, Thomas, what do you have?
Are we back on page 103 or?
We're back on 104.
104.
You have a rewrite to this?
Those are accurate. No, I looked at that. It is difficult to read and to follow, but I think more importantly, there are very good ideas in here that you should indeed be following those. And I did bring those up as we went through the appropriate pages within the document.
So we're good?
I don't see a problem in leaving that there. That's what the water advisory committee has on, is how it's going to be used.
Anything else, council? Okay, citizens, anything? Kata?
Thank you all for going through this general plan, but in the documentation world, one needs to have a paper trail of what's been done. So all of the resolutions for that has happened between 2005 and now should be in the appendices, so the citizens can see what and how, what was changed, how it was changed, the wording, and so forth. That is how you document something.
I think there are multicolored drafts that you received. As you may change it. Right, yeah. That's all documented. And we could probably put a book together and citizens can take a look at it. Because I remember sitting through this and there were blues and different colors that you got as you went through the process.
Yeah, it doesn't really, okay. We decided that kind of a document did not need to be in the general plan because we reflected those changes in the general plan. And, when you take what has been passed by resolution or something by the council and put it into the general plan, we just didn't feel it was necessary to have a whole bunch of resolutions and say, oh, here's some exhibit of what was done over the past 10 years.
And that's absolutely well thought.
Well, I guess what I was thinking, and I thought maybe what you were saying, was as they went through the process and made changes, because you saw the red line, and then as they developed theirs, you received additions that you guys put in, right? That you looked at each time you sat down.
Yes.
Which is all documented basically in here.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the red line.
Right,
But
but did you want to see their blue line to their changes?
no, and we're talking about the appendices. The
Oh,
appendices should have, the resolutions are 2004 to 2015, you know, they're not that many, they're 10 to 12 each year. But within the general plan, there's a resolution that is stricken. Only the title is stricken, not the verbiage. And citizens should have the right to understand and see the resolutions that were changed, how the general plan was changed. That's how you do it in the engineering world, by the way. You back up your changes with documentation. And that's what I'm asking for.
Well, these will be part of it. Pardon?
This could be repetitive, but since this is going to go to a vote to the citizens, will there be some sort of a summary that goes with the new general plan that describes how it's changed from the 2005 plan? Or will there be I'm just wondering, how will citizens be aware of the amount of work and effort that went into this by the planning commission, by the town council, and sort of the highlights of the changes, so they can evaluate it? I mean, they could obviously read it, but then they'd have to read both plans and somehow compare them side by side, which would be sort of a torturous process.
Ask them. It was torturous for them.
The town record certainly should show the changes that are made. I think the general plan itself has to be our best efforts at having a usable document.
And how did we do it in 2005? I don't think we did it that way. We submitted a general plan to the citizenry, and it's up to them at that point to approve or not approve, and they approved. So there wasn't any glossary or anything they referred to see what changes had been made. Again, this is what we are submitting. This is the general plan for the next 10 years, and you agree with it or you don't.
I actually had discussed this with the town clerk. She is going to have to prepare a very short summary statement to go in the material that is mailed out to voters. So there'll be something, it's not going to go into incredible detail, but it's going to talk about how this embodies the code modification, or I'm sorry, any modifications that have been made over the past 10 years, and it'll discuss how the process took place. And then there'll be an opportunity for the standard letters to go in. Ones that say this is the greatest thing that ever happened, the others that say just the opposite. One thing I would like to mention is I've talked with a couple of the commissioners, and there are a few places where stuff was left in that should not have been left in because it just is inaccurate. Like on page 50, there's a statement saying, the approved bond for funding the SCRCA restricts the use to parks, playgrounds, and open space. Those bonds are paid off. That's not relevant anymore. The bondholders have no hold over the town and what it does with its property. Okay,
So council okay with eliminating that?
okay, we'll probably put together a very short summary and get it to you as soon as we can.
On page 50,
Page 50.
Under Spurcross Range Conservation Area, the
Right
last
here.
sentence.
It's just a statement that's not relevant anymore.
But that's one of a number of
Okay, the
changes.
next council meeting is March the 7th. Is the general plan coming to council for vote at that time? Or
We have to advertise.
advertise? Okay, all right.
The 23rd.
second meeting?
The 23rd?
Either the second meeting or the first meeting in April,
Okay.
depending on when we can get the ad out.
We're done.
We're done.
we're done.
Okay. Thank you, citizens, council staff, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. Okay, when will, an updated copy of the, when do I not allow you guys?
Well, I know, but this is supposed to be a working session for you guys.
It's a work session.
Thank you.
When is the updated version on the
We'll bring it to the council.
So now the red one.